Dear listeners, welcome to the channel of Unsolved Cases. In this audiobook, I invite you to discover the truth about the mysterious disappearance of Madeleine McCann. My name is Gabriela, and I am the one who heads the Cyberofcriminal group. Written by Gabriela Groupcyberofcriminal, narrated by Vanessa Morgan. This post, as well as the accompanying ebook, will be crucial in resolving this case once and for all. With the help of the Netflix series, I had the opportunity to analyze the events in detail and read between the lines. Through my analytical skills and perpetrator profiling, I was able to put the pieces of the puzzle together and figure out what actually happened. The world of this case is complex and full of secrets. With a keen eye for detail, I was able to determine how the perpetrator operated and what patterns are recognizable in his behavior. The ability to create psychological profiles is crucial to understanding the murderer's motives and ways of thinking. This analytical approach allows me not only to understand the past, but also to see what can be done to finally achieve justice for Madeleine. In the coming chapters, I will present shocking revelations hidden behind the facade of mystery. In addition to investigating the identity of the perpetrator, I will discuss the approaches I have developed to find new evidence. Be ready for a journey into darkness based on the search for light and truth. In my upcoming audiobook and video, I will specifically address essential clues that are of great importance for the case of Madeleine McCann. Each clue is precisely narrowed down so that the audience will ask themselves, how does the person know this? My approach. I plan to create a comprehensive ebook about my findings and my work. This ebook will serve as an important addition to clear up misunderstandings and provide explicit information. The content will be clearly structured so that readers can understand the connections. Significance of my findings. The clues I present are crucial to advancing the case of Madeleine McCann and finding answers that have been sought for many years. It is important to emphasize that I am only now sharing this information, as the opportunities have arisen to combine my findings with modern technology, my education, and my knowledge. In addition, I will also discuss information that has already been published in the context of the case. This allows me to have a broader perspective. A step towards certainty. I feel it is necessary to offer Madeleine's parents a chance of certainty after so many years of uncertainty. It's time for them to finally be able to close and let go after all the pain and questions they've been through. My goal through this work is to help support this difficult journey and perhaps open up new perspectives that can lead to answers. It is important to me to treat history with respect while expressing the hope that the truth can come to light. In my ebook, which will be available through several distribution partners, I summarize the complete Netflix documentary about the case of Madeleine McCann. The last chapters of the book are particularly important, as I specifically address clues that could potentially contribute to solving the case. In an accompanying video, I will further narrow down and explain these tips. Objective of the information. It has already been investigated in this direction, but without significant results. I will send specific information to the public prosecutor's office in Braunschweig in the hope that they will be able to react to them in a targeted manner. Some might say, the next smart guy will bring her approaches, which we have already examined. But my approach will be aimed at providing precise information that will allow investigators to search for possible evidence in specific localities. Identification of the perpetrator. There is no question that Christian Brückner is considered a perpetrator, kidnapper, and murderer. However, I will not go into detail in my video due to the sensitivity of the topic and out of respect for the suffering relatives. I want to make sure that the presentation of the information is within an appropriate framework.
Trigger warning.
In addition, the ebook is provided with a trigger warning to inform readers that the content is sensitive. Again, I will be careful not to go into too much detail. Nevertheless, the more I deal with the case, the more impressions and images I perceive that help me to understand the situation better. I hope that with my ebook and video I can make a valuable contribution to give new impetus to the case of Madeleine McCann and possibly gain important insights. Chapter 2: Views on the book by Goncalo Amaral and the case of Madeleine McCann. The case of Madeleine McCann is one of the most well-known and most discussed criminal cases of the last 2 decades. In the discussions about this case, Goncalo Amaral's book plays a prominent role. Amaral, the former investigator who worked in the first phase of the investigation, has set out his point of view in his book A Verdade de Mentira. However, it can be said that his entire spectrum of views can be traced back to an aggrieved ego that feeds on the stalemate and setbacks in the investigation.
A wounded ego.
Amaral was frustrated that the investigation was not progressing. This frustration became the driving force for him, leading him to twist the facts of the case to support his own point of view. Instead of objectively looking for answers, he put himself in the spotlight by putting forward theories, some of which had little to do with the available evidence. His argumentation was not based on reliable evidence, but rather on his subjective interpretation of the events. Reinterpretation of the facts and defamation. It is evident that Amaral reinterpreted the entire situation around the Madeleine McCann case. This was done not only out of personal selfishness, but also out of a deep desire to regain control of the narrative and rehabilitate his own reputation. Due to all the media hype and the pressure the police were under, he was desperately looking for ways to strengthen his own position. His book and the theses contained in it are therefore to be regarded as pure slander in many respects. With his unfounded accusations against Madeleine's parents, he tried to distract from his own failures. Lack of concrete evidence. A major criticism of Amaral's theses is the lack of concrete evidence that could substantiate his claims. Despite his deep conviction and emotional argumentation, it quickly became clear that he could not provide any reliable evidence. His statements often seem to be based solely on speculative assumptions and emotional reactions, an approach that is not only unprofessional but also dangerous in the context of a murder investigation. Overall, it can be said that Goncalo Amaral's views and the book based on them arose more from personal pride and an offended vanity than from a well-founded search for the truth. This not only leads to confusion, but could also negatively affect the public perception of the case and its participants. In my ebook, I will delve deeper into these aspects and show how Amaral's narratives have shaped the investigation and memory of Madeleine McCann.
Distorted perception.
Of course, there are cases in criminal history in which parents are suspected of being involved in the disappearance or death of their children for various reasons. These cases are often complex and involve numerous psychological and social factors. In the case of the McCanns, however, where the parents have been highly committed and have worked towards having their first child over a 5-year period, such a way of thinking is not only misplaced, but also highly insensitive. It is hard to imagine that such a couple, who have waited so long for their daughter, would be able to commit such a crime. Projection of precedents. What Santiago Amaral does, however, is a complete distortion of perception. He projects precedent-like characteristics and behavioral patterns onto the McCanns that are out of proportion to reality. This projection is not only unethical, but also shows how little understanding Amaral has for the emotional and psychological dimensions of the parents. This approach may indicate an overexposure to fictional criminal cases, in which Amaral may have been influenced more by popular television series and crime dramas rather than based on the unique and tragic circumstances of this specific case. Psychological aspects. The psychological factors that shape people's behavior in extreme situations are complex. The idea that the McCanns would be able to commit such a devastating act ignores basic human emotions such as fear, grief, and a deep desire for safety for their family. Instead, Amaral transforms the parents into characters in a dramatic crime novel, further trivializing the grief and suffering they have suffered as a result of their daughter's kidnapping. Through the distorted perception and the inappropriate projection of behavioral patterns, Amaral has not only undermined his credibility as an investigator, but also pushed the suffering of the affected parents into the background. It is necessary to recognize and respect the emotional dimensions of the case in order to be able to actually understand the complexity of the situation. In my ebook, I will deepen these facts to show how important it is to let empathy and sensitivity prevail in such critical discourses. Chapter 3: Julia Faustina and the Claims of Being Madeleine McCann. In recent years, the Madeleine McCann case has once again gained international attention, especially due to the claims of Julia Faustina, a young woman who claims to be Madeleine. These statements have been widely discussed on both social media and the news and shed light on the complexity of public perception as well as the dynamics of social media exchanges. Introduction of Julia Faustina. Julia Faustina, also known as Julia Wendell, is a young woman of Polish origin who came into the spotlight through her social media and public statements. She claims to be the kidnapped Madeleine McCann, bringing various personal and emotional aspects of her identity into the discussion. Her pseudo-documentaries, in which she presents her theories, arouse considerable interest and ensure both encouragement and vehement rejection. Analysis of the claims. It is understandable that people who struggle with their own history are looking for explanations and a sense of identity. However, Faustina's claims can also be interpreted as an attempt to draw public attention to herself. These statements were refuted by DNA analysis, which clearly confirmed that she is not Madeleine McCann. This analysis has generated a lot of public conversation and controversy, especially with regard to the psychological aspects that may have led to their claims. Public reactions and media coverage. The media coverage of Faustina's statements has provoked a variety of reactions. Some people show compassion and support, while others are skeptical and question the credibility of their statements. This divergence raises the problematic link between media coverage and the real impact on affected families and the public. It is disturbing to observe how, in today's culture of instant content, the veracity of such claims is often ignored in favor of sensationalism and attention. The implications for the case. Faustina's intentions and the controversy she generates around her case raise important questions about how society deals with people who are motivated by psychological stress and insecurities to make decisions like these. At the same time, there is a danger that their testimony trivializes the pain of the McCanns and distracts from the real efforts of the investigators and the search for truth. The authorities must address these allegations with extreme sensitivity to ensure that the focus remains on the search for the truth about Madeleine and justice for the affected families. The discussion about Julia Faustina and her claims to be Madeleine McCann illustrates how complex dealing with such sensitive topics can be. However, the confirmation by the DNA analysis that she is not Madeleine should not devalue the discussion, but rather point to the seriousness and scope of the case. It is crucial to understand the social and emotional dimensions of these discussions, while not forgetting the true suffering of the McCanns. In my ebook, I will take a closer look at this topic and analyze how such claims can have an impact on public perception as well as on the ongoing investigation into the Madeleine case. Chapter 4: Christian Brückner and the Case of Madeleine McCann. Christian Brückner, a German citizen, has become a central figure in the investigation into Madeleine McCann's disappearance in recent years. Due to his past and proven criminal activities, he has aroused the interest of the authorities. In this chapter, we will take an in-depth look at Brückner's biography, the events that connect him to the case, as well as the investigations aimed at him. Biographical information about Christian Brückner. Christian Brückner was born in Germany in 1976. He led an eventful life marked by various criminal activities, including theft and sexual offenses. Brückner spent a lot of time in Portugal, where he had several stays between 1995 and 2007. During this time, he lived near Praia de Luz, the resort where Madeleine was kidnapped in 2007. His movements and environment during this time raise questions and make him a suspect in the McCann case. Connection to Madeleine McCann. In 2020, Brückner was finally identified as a suspect in the Madeleine McCann case. Through collected evidence and witness reports, interest in his person increased. The authorities discovered that he was in the area at the time of Madeleine's disappearance and maintained contacts with people who also lived nearby, among other things. In addition, it became known that Brückner was traveling in a stolen vehicle at the time of the crime, which further focused on his connection to the case. The investigations against Brückner. The investigations against Christian Brückner are characterized by complexity and challenges. Although there is extensive information and circumstantial evidence linking Brückner to Madeleine's disappearance, definitive evidence has so far been lacking. The public prosecutor's office in Braunschweig has collected a large number of clues and evidence, but the difficulty of formulating clear and reliable charges remains. The investigators are faced with the challenge of putting the pieces of the puzzle together in order to enable a legally binding conviction. Psychological aspects. An important aspect in the investigations and in the public eye is Brückner's perpetrator profile. Psychologists and criminologists are working to create a comprehensive picture of his personality and motives. Brückner shows characteristics of manipulative and opportunistic behavior, which makes him a potential perpetrator. Analysis suggests that he may be suffering from a certain disrespect for the rule of law, which, combined with his criminal past, makes him a serious suspect in the McCann case. Christian Brückner is a central figure in the case of Madeleine McCann, and his involvement in the investigation raises numerous questions. While the authorities continue to search for reliable evidence, the case remains unclear and incomplete for many. In my ebook, I will continue to follow the developments around Brückner and take a closer look at the challenges of the investigation. It is essential to understand what happened and the psychological aspects involved in order to get a complete picture of this tragic case. Analysis and conclusion. My analysis clearly shows that Christian Brückner is the perpetrator, kidnapper, and murderer of Madeleine McCann. There are numerous circumstantial evidence and indications that substantially substantiate his involvement in this case. In order to prevent him from possibly being released in September 2025, which he himself is striving for, it is crucial to collect and present these clues and evidence. Evidence that substantiates Brückner's guilt. Witness reports. Several witnesses saw Brückner near Praia de Luz at the time of Madeleine's disappearance. These sightings are consistent in time and geography with the moment Madeleine was kidnapped. Technological evidence. Police have information about Brückner's cell phone, which was proven to have been active near the crime scene. This could create a direct link between him and Madeleine's disappearance. His criminal record. Brückner has an extensive criminal record, which includes sexual offenses. This criminal past gives reason to believe that he has the potential for violence and crime against children. Stolen vehicles. Brückner was driving a stolen vehicle at the time of the crime. The analysis of traces on this vehicle could provide decisive clues that point to involvement in the kidnapping. Psychological profile. The psychological profile of Brückner suggests that he has manipulative and opportunistic traits that characterize a perpetrator in such a case. His possible motives could be both financial and psychological, which increases the likelihood of his active intervention. Urgency of the investigations. It is of the utmost urgency that the investigating authorities gather and consolidate all available evidence to prove Brückner's guilt. If this does not happen, the threat of release could enable him to move back into society, which would pose a significant danger to others. Brückner's efforts to be released early from prison further emphasize the urgency of the matter. It is crucial that the competent authorities make every effort to prevent him from re-engaging with the public. The evidence against Christian Brückner should be treated as a priority in order to ensure justice for Madeleine McCann. A thorough and comprehensive investigation is needed not only to conclusively resolve the case, but also to respect the memories and pain of the affected families and the public. In the coming chapters, I will take a closer look at the possibilities of finding evidence in the case and the role of the media and the public. Short interruption. The audiobook is about to continue. I would like to give you some important information and offers. If you enjoy reading and are interested in the details and background of the case, you can find a summary of the Netflix series as well as a comprehensive analysis of platforms such as the Mystery series. It has about 274 pages and is a valuable extension of the audiobook you're listening to. You can get the ebook from several distribution partners through Tolino, including Tolino, Thalia, Hugen Dubel, Waltbild, eBooks, Libri, Scoob, Amazon Kindle, Club Bertelsmann, ONOAHE, BookBeat, Ozender, BOL Booker, Layman's, Kobo, and many more. In addition, the ebooks Gabriela Groupcyberofcriminal have been included in the German National Library, DNB, and more will follow. The DNB is the central archive library for all media in German and documents Germany's entire cultural heritage.
Thank you for your interest. Outlook on the investigations.
My perception tells me that evidence can be found and the murderer will eventually be convicted. However, I cannot predict how long this process will take. It is high time that parents were given certainty about the fate of their beautiful little angel, Madeleine, and it is also important for all of us to know what happened to her. I invite you to read the summary and analysis and support the important information. Together we can help to clarify this tragic story and bring light into the darkness. Thank you very much for your attention and interest. Analysis and conclusion. My analysis clearly shows that Christian Brückner is the perpetrator, kidnapper, and murderer of Madeleine McCann. There are numerous circumstantial evidence and indications that substantially substantiate his involvement in this case. In order to prevent him from possibly being released in September, which he himself is striving for, it is crucial to collect and present these clues and evidence. Evidence that substantiates Brückner's guilt. Witness reports. Several witnesses saw Brückner near Praia de Luz at the time of Madeleine's disappearance. These sightings are consistent in time and geography with the moment Madeleine was kidnapped. Technological evidence. Police have information about Brückner's cell phone, which was proven to have been active near the crime scene. This could create a direct link between him and Madeleine's disappearance. His criminal record. Brückner has an extensive criminal record, which includes sexual offenses. This criminal past gives reason to believe that he has the potential for violence and crime against children. Stolen vehicles. Brückner was driving a stolen vehicle at the time of the crime. The analysis of traces on this vehicle could provide decisive clues that point to involvement in the kidnapping. Psychological profile. The psychological profile of Brückner suggests that he has manipulative and opportunistic traits that characterize a perpetrator in such a case. His possible motives could be both financial and psychological, which increases the likelihood of his active intervention. Urgency of the investigations. It is of the utmost urgency that the investigating authorities gather and consolidate all available evidence to prove Brückner's guilt. If this does not happen, the threat of release could enable him to move back into society, which would pose a significant danger to others. Brückner's efforts to be released early from prison further emphasize the urgency of the matter. It is crucial that the competent authorities make every effort to prevent him from re-engaging with the public. Respectful handling of the situation. Even if Christian Brückner is seen as a monster, it is important to treat his situation with respect. The life of a person who will be behind bars forever will be decided, which is fully justified in view of the seriousness of his actions. I even think that in the course of his person he regrets what he has done and that he sometimes thinks, if only I hadn't done it. It can be assumed that he is afraid that further evidence could come to light, which will only further confirm his involvement in the crimes. The problem is that if he is released from September, there is a risk that he will go into hiding and travel abroad. I even have information about where he might be going, but I want to keep this fact under wraps so as not to jeopardize the integrity of the investigation. The evidence against Christian Brückner should be treated as a priority in order to ensure justice for Madeleine McCann. A thorough and comprehensive investigation is needed not only to conclusively resolve the case, but also to respect the memories and pain of the affected families and the public. In the coming chapters, I will take a closer look at the possibilities of finding evidence in the case and the role of the media and the public. Chapter 5. The role of the media and the public in the Madeleine McCann case. The Madeleine McCann case has not only occupied investigators, but also the public and the media to a great extent. The way the story is told affects not only the perception of the case, but also the emotions and reactions of the people and the affected families. In this chapter, I will take an in-depth look at how media coverage and public perception shaped the course of the case and the impact this has had on the investigation and the families involved. Media coverage and its impact. Media coverage of Madeleine McCann's disappearance began on the day of her abduction and continued for years. The search for Madeleine was considered by many to be one of the most media-covered missing persons cases in history. Sensationalism. Often, the media have tried to make the story more dramatic through sensationalist reporting. Through exaggerated representations and unfounded speculation, they have contributed to the uncertainty of the public. This approach can lead to people's views on the facts of the case contradicting real evidence and logic. Influence on the investigations. The intensive media coverage also has an impact on the investigative work. The visibility of the case meant that investigators were under immense pressure to deliver results. This can lead to hasty decisions or a focus on specific suspects, while potentially missing relevant clues. Precedent for future cases. The coverage of the Madeleine McCann case has potential implications for other missing persons cases. The way the media deals with it could influence investigators' behavior and strategies in the future. This raises the question of the extent to which the media bear responsibility for how they deal with sensitive issues. The public reaction. The public's reactions to the case are as complex as the media coverage. The tragedy of Madeleine's disappearance has touched people around the world and led to a wave of solidarity and support for the McCanns. Solidarity and mobilization. Millions of people identified with the McCanns and showed their support. Social media has played by spreading calls for help and organizing initiatives to support the family. This mobilization shows how strong people's compassion for those affected can be. Public speculation. Despite this support, public speculation about the parents and their possible responsibility for Madeleine's disappearance has skyrocketed. Often, people who have unverified information make hasty judgments. This leads to additional damage to the suffering already suffered by the family and increases the pressure on the investigators. Impact on the McCanns. Public perception can have a significant impact on the lives of those affected. The McCanns found it difficult to lead a normal everyday life while they were constantly in the public eye. The effects of speculation and negative portrayals have stressful psychological consequences for the family. The role of the media and the public in the Madeleine McCann case is complex and multi-layered. Sensational reporting and disproportionate speculation have not only influenced the investigation, but also had a lasting impact on the lives of the affected families. It is crucial to recognize the responsibility of the media and the public and to consciously confront them in order to respect the suffering of families and to support the search for truth and justice. In the coming chapters, I will explore how these aspects might affect justice in the Madeleine McCann case and what lessons we can learn from this tragic case. Lessons from the Madeleine McCann case. The case of Madeleine McCann has not only moved the world, but also offers important lessons about children's property and the responsibility of society, the media, and investigative authorities. In this chapter, I will summarize the key lessons that can be learned from this tragic event, as well as their relevance for future cases and society at large. 1. The importance of early identification. A key aspect that emerges from the McCann case is the need for a quick and effective investigative response to missing persons cases, especially when it comes to children. The first hours after the disappearance are crucial. Rapid mobilization of resources, staff, and support from the community can make a huge difference. Cooperation between authorities. The case has highlighted the challenges that exist in cooperation between national and international investigative authorities. The exchange of information and strategies is essential to ensure effective action. Training and awareness raising. Training police and rescue workers to identify and respond adequately to missing persons cases could potentially lead to better results. This includes raising awareness of children's specific needs. 2. The role of the media and the public. The media's handling of the case has raised numerous questions about responsibility and ethics. It is crucial that journalists and editors are aware of their power and the impact of their reporting. Responsible reporting. Media should be careful not to sensationalize and instead treat the affected families with respect. Balanced reporting should preserve the dignity of those affected and avoid prejudice. Public education. Outreach to raise awareness of the real-life challenges faced by missing children and their families could help raise awareness and compassion. 3. Importance of prevention work. The issue of child abuse and abduction is not only a legal problem, but also a social one. To protect children, society needs comprehensive prevention strategies. Family education. Education about children's rights, safety, and dealing with strangers should be an integral part of schools and for parents. Programs that involve both children and parents can help raise awareness of risks. Support for vulnerable families. Society should promote programs that offer support to vulnerable families to identify and treat problems early.
4.
Legal system and victims' rights. The legal framework in cases of child abduction and abuse must be regularly reviewed and adapted. The legal system is crucial for the protection of children and justice for victims. Law revisions. Ongoing dialogue on necessary changes in the legal system is needed to ensure that the rights of victims and their families are respected. Victim protection. Access to psychological and legal support for victims and their families should be improved to make it easier to cope with their trauma. The case of Madeleine McCann is a tragic reminder of the fragility of children's lives and the responsibility we have as a society. The lessons learned from this case are of great importance both to optimize the search for missing persons and to improve societal conditions for the protection of children. It is up to all of us to ensure that such tragedies are prevented in the future and that we as a community create a supportive and protective environment for all children. In the following chapters, I will take a closer look at the specific actions and initiatives taken in response to the McCann case and the progress made in the fight against child abuse and abduction. Actions and initiatives following the Madeleine McCann case. The case of Madeleine McCann has attracted a lot of attention around the world and has led to numerous measures and initiatives being taken to protect children and prevent similar incidents. In this chapter, I will present the main programs and strategies developed in response to this tragic case, as well as their impact and successes.
1.
Improve policing and Interpol cooperation. One of the most significant measures taken after the disappearance of Madeleine McCann was to improve international cooperation in the fight against child abduction. Establishment of task forces. In many countries, special task forces have been formed to focus on child abduction and work closely with Interpol. These units specialize in quickly processing missing persons cases and sharing information about suspects. Missing persons databases. The creation and improvement of international databases that collect information on missing children and known perpetrators has made the search for missing children more efficient. 2. Child safety awareness campaigns. After Madeleine's disappearance, numerous awareness campaigns were launched that focus on the safety of children. Safety programs in schools. Many schools have implemented programs to educate children about safety and how to deal with strangers. These programs teach children to recognize dangers and how to behave correctly in potentially dangerous situations. Information portals for parents. Initiatives to inform parents about children's rights, safety measures, and the importance of supervising their children have been implemented in many countries. These campaigns promote awareness of the risks that children can face and provide resources for prevention. 3. Support for affected families. The psychological and emotional pressure on families of missing children is enormous. In response to the McCann case, programs were developed to offer support to affected families. Counseling services. The provision of psychological counseling services to affected families has been improved. This support helps families deal with the emotional trauma and take the necessary steps to move forward with the search for their missing children. Networks for affected families. Initiatives that connect affected families can promote the exchange of experiences and support. Such networks enable families to support each other and learn from each other's experiences. 4. Changes in the law and political initiatives. The case of Madeleine McCann has also led to reflections on possible legislative changes and policy initiatives aimed at better protecting children. Changes in child protection law. Laws have been amended in several countries to speed up investigations into missing children and to empower competent authorities to act more quickly and effectively. International agreements. The case has provided the impetus for the creation of better international agreements that focus on cooperation in child abduction cases. Such agreements facilitate the joint work of investigative authorities in different countries. The response to the Madeleine McCann case has led to important changes and improvements in child protection around the world. The diversity of initiatives shows that it is possible to learn from tragic incidents and take measures that help prevent similar incidents in the future. While we acknowledge the progress and successes in these areas, we must continue to work to protect all children and ensure that past mistakes are not repeated. In the next chapters, I will examine specific case studies that show how similar initiatives have been implemented in other countries and what successes have been achieved. Chapter 8. Case Studies: Successful Child Safeguarding Initiatives Abroad. The case of Madeleine McCann has triggered a large number of discussions and initiatives to protect children, not only in the UK and Portugal, but also internationally. This chapter presents examples from different countries that show how similar measures and strategies have been successfully implemented to protect children and find missing persons. 1. The Amber Alert Systems in the USA. The Amber Alert System is one of the most well-known programs for the rapid dissemination of information about missing children. It was launched in 1996 and has become an effective tool for cooperation between the police and the public. Functionality. Rapid public information. In a child abduction case, the police activate the Amber Alert System, which then disseminates information about the missing child, the suspect, and the hijacked vehicle in real time on radio and television stations as well as on digital platforms. Breadth of reach. The system enables rapid mobilization of the public. Witnesses who may see or hear information can act immediately and provide relevant information to the police. Successes. Quick rescues. Numerous children were rescued within a short time thanks to the Amber Alert. The increased number of eyewitness reports has enabled many successful repatriations. 2. The Missing Children Initiative in Canada. There are various programs in Canada that aim to protect children and find missing persons. A central initiative is the Missing Children Program, which focuses on finding missing children. Measures. Public education. The Canadian government and numerous organizations are conducting awareness campaigns to raise public awareness of the issue of missing children. These campaigns provide information about signs of child abuse and kidnapped children. Rapid mobilization of authorities. The program promotes coordination between different authorities to ensure a rapid response to missing persons reports. Successes. Increased detection rate. Statistics show that the clearance rate of missing children in Canada has increased, which is partly due to the efficiency of initiatives. 3. The British CEOP Command, Child Exploitation and Online Protection Command. In the UK, the CEOP Command focuses on protecting and keeping children safe in the digital space and from sexual exploitation. It was founded to both collect information and raise public awareness. Measures. Online safety education. The CEOP provides training and resources for parents and educators to raise awareness of online dangers and promote online safety strategies. Reporting system. There is a simple reporting system that allows children and young people to report threatening situations or suspicious persons anonymously. Successes. Better awareness. The UK's CEOP Command has led to increased awareness of the issue of sexual abuse and child abduction. The initiatives have helped to identify many potential dangers and intervene before they lead to serious incidents. 4. Initiatives in Australia. In Australia, there are also numerous programs aimed at child protection. The Australian Federal Police, AFP, has set up special units for missing children to improve coordination and cooperation. Measures. Outreach. AFP regularly conducts awareness campaigns to inform the public about the dangers that exist for children and to emphasize the importance of prevention. International cooperation. In cases that have an international dimension, the AFP works closely with police authorities in other countries to search for missing children and prosecute potential perpetrators.
Successes.
Successful returns. Thanks to these measures, several missing children have been located and returned to safe environments. The cooperation has also contributed to an increase in awareness of the issue. The case studies from the US, Canada, UK, and Australia show that proactive approaches and coordinated efforts can have a significant impact on child safety. These initiatives highlight the importance of learning from the experiences of other countries and adapting best practices to protect the well-being of children worldwide. In the next few chapters, I will explore how awareness and child protection measures are evolving and the role of the community in this process. Chapter 10: The Innocence of Robert Murat. In the course of the investigation into the Madeleine McCann case, Robert Murat was repeatedly targeted as a suspect. But the facts and evidence clearly speak against his involvement. In this chapter, I will present the arguments that support Robert Murat's innocence and show why Christian Brückner is the more likely perpetrator compared to Murat. 1. Time and geographical relief. An important aspect that exonerates Murat is his demonstrable presence at the time of the crime. Alibi. Murat was found near his home on the evening of May 3, 2007, when Madeleine disappeared, and there are numerous testimonies that prove his presence. While the McCanns were out for dinner, Murat was seen by witnesses near his home, making his innocence more likely. Lack of direct connection. There is no direct evidence linking Murat to Madeleine's disappearance. In contrast to Christian Brückner, for whom there are a large number of clues to substantiate his possible perpetration.
2.
Insufficient evidence and insinuations. The accusations against Murat were often based on unproven theories and speculation, while there is a substantial amount of evidence against Christian Brückner. Media pressure. The intense media coverage created an atmosphere of distrust of Murat, although there was no solid evidence to point to his guilt. The media and the public tended to regard Murat as the suspect, which did not correspond to the actual evidence. Contradictory information. The information about Murat, which was initially considered incriminating, turned out to be false or misleading in many cases. After more than a decade of extensive investigations, it was determined that Murat was not involved in the kidnapping. 3. Willingness to cooperate. Robert Murat was constantly cooperative with the investigators, which is in stark contrast to the behavior of a typical suspect. Readiness for questioning. Murat made himself available for time-consuming, repeated questioning and actively worked with the police to support the investigation. This is in contrast to the mystery and hide-and-seek that many other perpetrators show. Hiring a lawyer. Murat hired a lawyer to ensure that his rights were protected. These steps reflect his innocence and show that he acted out of conviction and had nothing to hide. 4. Comparison to Christian Brückner. The most striking difference between Murat and Christian Brückner is Brückner's shocking criminal record. Criminal history. Christian Brückner has a proven history of sexual offenses and other criminal activities. This background makes him a credible suspect in the matter of Madeleine's disappearance. Circumstantial evidence and facts. The evidence against Brückner, such as witness reports and technical evidence, is overwhelming and contrasts with the limited and insufficient evidence against Murat. The arguments supporting Robert Murat's innocence are both numerous and convincing. Due to his verifiable presence at the time of the crime, the lack of incriminating evidence and his cooperative attitude towards the investigators, it is clear that Murat is not the perpetrator. The focus should be on Christian Brückner, whose criminal past and the clues linking him to Madeleine's disappearance suggest that he is the real culprit. It is crucial that the investigation and justice in this tragic case are not overshadowed by prejudice and unfounded suspicions. Chapter 11. References to the connection to Christian Brückner. The investigation into the case of Madeleine McCann has brought to light a number of incriminating clues that point to Christian Brückner as a potential perpetrator. In this chapter, I will summarize the current findings and indications that substantiate the suspected connection between Brückner and the disappearance of Madeleine. 1. Christian Brückner's vehicle. A central element of the investigation is a vehicle that belonged to Brückner and is still known as the so-called Cube. The importance of this vehicle cannot be overstated. Location of the vehicle. The vehicle was found in a junkyard near the scene of the crime. It is crucial to narrow down the exact location of the vehicle and check which areas may have already been examined. DNA evidence. The fact that traces of Madeleine McCann's DNA were discovered in this vehicle is an incriminating clue. Even a single hair could be enough to establish a connection between Brückner and Madeleine's disappearance, which could lead to his arrest and possible arrest. 2. Geographical limitations. The geographical context plays an important role in the investigation and could provide decisive clues to the clarification of the case. Narrowing down the area. It is important to define a geographical radius around the location where the vehicle was found, which allows to identify possible crime scenes or relevant clues in the area. This limitation could also include other possible evidence or witnesses in the neighborhood. Possible verification of bodies of water. In conjunction with the theory that Madeleine may have been thrown into a body of water, the adjacent rivers and streams should be examined for traces. It might make sense to entrust forensic teams with the inspection of these areas to ensure that no potential evidence is missed. 3. Status of the investigation. Although research results in this direction are already available, it is unclear whether they have already borne fruit. Progress in the investigation. While Brückner's possible role in the case is known to be investigated, previous reports show that not all areas around the vehicle have been extensively examined. Clues that may have been overlooked could prove decisive in clarifying the events of May 3, 2007. Need for further investigation. In view of the potential evidence that has yet to be secured, a reopening of investigations in certain areas is essential. A forensic review of evidence, including analysis of bone or hair samples, could be crucial. The indications of Christian Brückner as a possible perpetrator in the case of Madeleine McCann are complex and alarming. The DNA traces already found in the vehicle, even a single hair could have a decisive influence on the investigation, require a thorough and re-examination of the environments in which the vehicle was found. It is crucial that all possible evidence is secured to clarify the fate of Madeleine McCann and ensure justice for the families involved. In the coming chapters, we will continue to shed light on the developments in these investigations and their implications for the case. Chapter 12. Precautions to be taken when publishing information. Given the sensitive nature of the Madeleine McCann case and the ongoing investigation, it is imperative that we exercise extreme caution with the information provided. Therefore, in my upcoming publications, be it in this ebook or in accompanying videos, I will only share rough details and hints. This strategy serves several purposes that will be of great importance for the progress of the investigation. 1. Protection of evidence. Avoid complications. Publishing only general information ensures that possible evidence is not compromised. Concrete details could give potential perpetrators or accomplices the opportunity to cover up their crimes or manipulate important clues. Maintaining the integrity of the investigation. A restrained publication could help to preserve the integrity of the ongoing investigation. It is important that investigators can secure and evaluate all traces and evidence in their original form. 2. Raising public awareness. Attention without sensationalism. The provision of rough details makes it possible to draw the public's attention to the case without creating unnecessary sensationalism. Understanding and compassion for the affected families should be in the foreground. Invitation to help. By informing the public without revealing too many details, I also want to motivate them to pay attention to possible clues and evidence that could help solve the case. Anyone who has relevant information should feel encouraged to report it to the authorities without being distracted by sensationalist reporting. 3. Responsibility and ethics. Ethical considerations. It is of utmost importance to uphold ethical standards when reporting on such sensitive issues. By sharing only general information, I meet the needs of the affected families and respect their privacy. Precautions for the future. This strategy will serve as a way to ensure that we do not negatively influence the investigation or increase the risk of evidence being lost. The careful and responsible handling of information in the case of Madeleine McCann is crucial to ensure the safety of evidence and to give investigators the necessary freedom to carry out their work effectively. By publishing only rough details, I want to raise public awareness while ensuring that all relevant clues and evidence remain in the hands of investigators. My goal remains to get to the truth and achieve justice for Madeleine and her family. In the coming chapters or videos, I will continue to follow these principles and hope to inspire others to use information responsibly. Together, we can help clarify the truth and promote a safe environment for all children. Dear listeners and readers, I would like to take this opportunity to turn to you and ask for your support for my work. It is important to me that these important topics are heard, and I invite you to subscribe to my channel, share it, and leave thoughts in the comments.
1. Joint commitment.
Respectful discussion. Please be respectful in your dealings with each other and treat the difficulties associated with such difficult topics with empathy. It is important that we remain sensitive in our discussion and do not hurt anyone. Certainty for the parents. The primary goal of my commitment is to provide certainty and clarity to the parents concerned. I know how hard it is to close without remnants, and I'm infinitely sorry that something so horrible happened to that beautiful little angel, Madeleine. 2. Darkness and evil. Unfortunately, in our world, in duality, the dark and evil exist in men. These negative aspects are controlled by biochemical processes in the brain. I'll go into detail about this in future content.
3.
My past and future projects. I have already written several books and ebooks on the subject, including the case of Gabriel Fernandez, which was simply tragic. My work will continue, and I have many more unsolved cases in my sights, which I want to pursue with a lot of time and commitment. I am determined to collect clues and find solutions. Next planned case. The next case that I will tackle is already being planned. I can't wait to let you know and work with you to solve these tragic stories. Please help me raise awareness of these important issues and hear the voices of those who are often not heard. Your support is crucial to the progress of my work, and together we can make a difference. Thank you very much for your time and support. Together, we can help bring the truth to light and achieve justice for those affected. Report on the publication of videos and ebooks as well as the planned analysis for the public prosecutor's office in Braunschweig. After publishing my videos in German and English and releasing my ebooks in both languages, I will now focus on the script to prepare a detailed analysis for the public prosecutor's office in Braunschweig. This protocol is based on an analytical profiling construct in conjunction with the profiling of the hijacker. In doing so, I will use the interpretation between the lines as well as my own analysis method, which I have developed in the course of my experience. However, this method remains secret to protect company data. Uniqueness of the method. I emphasize the uniqueness of my method, as I have been robbed of my knowledge and skills several times in the past. Many of my ideas and knowledge were used without my consent in order to derive my own benefit from it and to be declared as self-production. Therefore, I am proceeding tactically and cautiously in this matter. Since October 2023, I've invested several hours in scripting, analytics, and many unpaid hours that have already resulted in a solution worth $500,000. In view of these investments, it is important to me that the energy used also flows back. Offer of my expertise. The manuscripts I have prepared for the McCann family and the prosecution will be made available free of charge. My aim here is not to enrich myself, but to offer a meaningful and valuable analysis based on my expertise. I expect that this could be called an insinuation by many, but I will reject such comments and not go into them. Dealing with envy and resentment. I have already experienced many encounters with envy and resentment and have therefore taken measures to protect myself from these negative influences. It is important to focus on the truth before jumping to conclusions or judging someone in public. It is my goal through this work to contribute to the clarification of information and to help those who rely on this analysis. Future impact of my videos. Even though my videos may not be implemented immediately, I am very sure that they will ultimately bear fruit and help the case to be solved eventually. This has also been the case in the past. However, my contributions were often swept under the carpet, while others were able to take credit for my ideas and analyses. For this reason, I am now taking a different approach in order to underpin my role and influence in advance. I expect that other arguments and objections will also be presented that try to diminish or ignore my contribution. Nevertheless, I am convinced that the solution to the case will ultimately be due to me personally. For me, it is crucial that the recognition for the work done and the innovative ideas is not lost again. I am willing to do my part and will make sure that my analysis and insights are brought to the forefront.
Call for support.
For all those who appreciate and want to support me, I ask you to actively contribute. This can be in the form of sharing my videos or by distributing my ebooks in the form of affiliate links. I invite you to subscribe to my channel, leave comments, and spread the content further. In addition, you can buy my ebooks or send me a small donation for the ongoing projects. It's not a must, but every little post is of great value, even if it's just a like. Thank you very much for listening and for the time you dedicate to my videos. Nothing can be taken for granted, and I appreciate your support very much. Together we can make a difference and drive important projects forward. Until next time.